These stories are very common, and there must be several on the internet, and that's why I'm telling you one today. I ended a 12-year relationship because of my ex-wife's betrayal, but now she's stalking me and threatening me to get back together with her. My name is Alex, and I never thought I'd find myself in the situation I'm in now. 12 years ago, I met Sarah, a vibrant, charismatic woman who instantly captivated me. We connected on so many levels, it felt like a dream come true. We married 2 years later, building a life together that seemed perfect from the outside. We had a cozy home, 2 adorable dogs, and a circle of friends who admired our relationship. For over a decade, I believed we were solid, facing life's challenges as a team. But life has a way of throwing curveballs, and not all that glitters is gold. Despite the happy moments and shared dreams, there were underlying issues I chose to ignore. Maybe it was because I was deeply in love, or perhaps I was simply afraid to face the truth. Either way, the cracks in our relationship were there, hidden beneath the surface, waiting to break open. Looking back, I realize how naive I was to think that love alone could keep us together forever. In those early years, Sarah and I were inseparable. We traveled to new places, explored different cultures, and shared countless laughs and memories. Our weekends were filled with spontaneous road trips, and our weekdays were spent planning our next adventure. We even started a small business together, something we were both passionate about, and it thrived under our joint effort. Friends often commented on how we seemed like the perfect couple, and I believed it too. Our connection felt effortless. We celebrated each other's successes and supported one another through setbacks. I remember one particularly difficult year when my father passed away. Sarah was my rock. She comforted me through my grief, showing a depth of empathy and love that I thought could weather any storm. It was moments like these that made me think our bond was unbreakable, that no matter what came our way, we would always find a way back to each other. But the illusion of our perfect life began to shatter about a year ago. It started with small, seemingly insignificant changes. Sarah became more secretive, often glued to her phone and stepping out for calls she claimed were from work. At first, I didn't think much of it. I trusted her completely and dismissed my growing unease as paranoia. Yet, the distance between us was becoming impossible to ignore. One evening, I accidentally saw a message flash on her phone from a name I didn't recognize. My heart sank as I read the words, "Can't wait to see you again." Confronting Sarah, I was met with denial and anger. She insisted it was nothing, just a misunderstanding, but my gut told me otherwise. I felt the foundation of our marriage cracking under the weight of her lies. Determined to uncover the truth, I began piecing together the clues, each revelation more painful than the last. The betrayal was undeniable. She was having an affair. Discovering Sarah's betrayal was like a knife to the heart. I felt a mixture of anger, sadness, and profound disappointment. After confronting her and receiving more lies, I knew I couldn't continue living in this deception. The woman I once trusted with my life had shattered that trust beyond repair. I spent sleepless nights weighing my options, trying to figure out if there was any way to salvage our marriage. Ultimately, I realized that staying together would only prolong the pain. Trust, once broken, is nearly impossible to rebuild. I couldn't envision a future where I would constantly question her loyalty and intentions. With a heavy heart, I decided to end our 12-year relationship. The conversation was devastating for both of us. Sarah cried and begged for forgiveness, promising that the affair meant nothing and that she would change. But I had made up my mind. I had to prioritize my own mental and emotional well-being. Our marriage was over. Breaking up with Sarah was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. The day I told her it was over, I felt a mix of dread and relief. We sat in the living room, the same place where we'd shared so many happy memories, and I told her that I couldn't continue the relationship after her betrayal. She pleaded with me, tears streaming down her face, promising she would make things right, but my mind was made up. I couldn't live with the constant doubt and mistrust. I moved out the next day, taking only the essentials. The emptiness of my new apartment mirrored the void I felt inside. I tried to focus on the future, convincing myself that this was a necessary step for my own healing. The days that followed were a blur of packing, paperwork, and painful goodbyes. We divided our assets, including our beloved dogs, which was another heart-wrenching decision. As I walked away from the life we'd built together, I felt like I was leaving a part of myself behind. The first few months after the breakup were incredibly tough. I was living in a small apartment that felt foreign and cold compared to the home Sarah and I had shared. Each day was a struggle to get out of bed, go to work, and pretend that everything was normal. My friends and family tried to support me, but it was hard to open up about the pain and betrayal I felt. I threw myself into my work, hoping that staying busy would help me heal faster. Surprisingly, slowly but surely, I began to find a new rhythm. I started going to the gym more regularly, picking up hobbies I had long neglected, and reconnecting with old friends. I even found solace in simple routines like cooking for myself or taking long walks in the park. Though the wound of betrayal was still fresh, I felt a glimmer of hope that I could rebuild my life, piece by piece. I was determined to move forward and leave the past behind, believing that each day away from Sarah was a step toward healing. Just as I started to feel like I was regaining control over my life, strange things began to happen. It started with Sarah showing up unannounced at my apartment, begging for another chance. I told her firmly that my decision was final, but she didn't seem to accept it. Soon after, I noticed her car parked outside my building at odd hours. At first, I thought it might be a coincidence, but it quickly became clear that it wasn't. Sarah's presence became more frequent and unsettling. She would leave notes on my car, send me countless text messages, and even follow me when I went out. I felt like I was being watched all the time. Her desperation was palpable, and it terrified me. What was once a painful but necessary end to our relationship was now turning into a nightmare. My attempts to reason with her only seemed to escalate her behavior. I was living in constant fear, unable to understand how the woman I once loved could turn into someone I no longer recognized. Sarah's behavior escalated from mere presence to outright threats. It started with texts and emails that became increasingly hostile. She would swing between begging for forgiveness and threatening to ruin my life if I didn't take her back. Late at night, my phone would buzz with messages like, "You'll regret leaving me," or, "I'll make sure you never find peace without me." The fear that had been gnawing at me turned into a constant, oppressive weight. One night, I came home to find my apartment door slightly ajar. Inside, nothing was taken, but it was clear someone had been there. I found a photo of Sarah and me from happier times placed conspicuously on my kitchen table, with a note that read, "We belong together." My blood ran cold. This was no longer just stalking. It was a direct invasion of my personal space. I realized then that Sarah was capable of much more than I had imagined, and I knew I had to take her threats seriously. Terrified and feeling completely out of my depth, I decided it was time to seek help. I confided in my close friends and family, who urged me to go to the police. Filing a report felt surreal, explaining the situation, showing the threatening messages, and recounting the break-in. The officers took my concerns seriously and suggested I get a restraining order. It was a step I never imagined I would have to take against someone I once loved. I also reached out to a therapist to help me cope with the mounting stress and fear. Talking through my experiences helped me feel less alone and gave me strategies to manage my anxiety. My friends took turns staying with me, and I installed additional locks and security cameras around my apartment. Despite these precautions, the sense of violation lingered. Every unexpected noise or unfamiliar face sent my heart racing. I was living in a constant state of alert, hoping that the legal measures would be enough to keep Sarah at bay. As the days turned into weeks, I began to develop coping mechanisms to deal with the ongoing stress and fear caused by Sarah's stalking and threats. I threw myself even more into my work, finding solace in the distraction and the sense of accomplishment it provided. Exercise became a crucial outlet, helping to release pent-up tension and clear my mind. I leaned heavily on the support of my friends and family, grateful for their unwavering presence during this tumultuous time. Therapy sessions became a lifeline, offering me a safe space to unpack my emotions and fears. My therapist helped me understand that Sarah's actions were not a reflection of my worth or the love I had given her. I started practicing mindfulness and meditation, learning to ground myself in the present moment rather than allowing anxiety about the future to consume me. Gradually, I began to regain a sense of control over my life, even as Sarah's attempts to manipulate and intimidate me continued. Each day was a battle against fear and uncertainty, but I was determined not to let Sarah's actions define me. I focused on rebuilding my sense of self-worth and rediscovering the things that brought me joy before our relationship had turned toxic. Despite the challenges, I held on to the hope that one day I would find peace and closure, free from the shadow of Sarah's relentless pursuit. Despite my efforts to move forward, Sarah's stalking persisted, and one evening, it reached a boiling point. I encountered her waiting for me outside my workplace, demanding to talk. I tried to reason with her, urging her to seek help and move on, but she became increasingly agitated. Passers-by noticed the altercation, and someone called the police. Officers arrived quickly and separated us. Sarah was arrested for violating the restraining order and causing a disturbance. That night was a turning point. Seeing Sarah's escalating behavior in public made me realize the seriousness of the situation. It wasn't just about my safety anymore. Sarah needed help she wasn't willing to seek on her own. Despite the relief of having legal intervention, I knew the road ahead would still be fraught with challenges. I had to stay vigilant and continue taking precautions to ensure my safety while navigating the legal process and ongoing emotional turmoil caused by Sarah's actions. Sarah's arrest marked a turning point in my journey towards reclaiming my life. It was a moment of validation, where the legal system recognized the severity of her actions and provided a measure of protection. In the following months, I focused on healing from the emotional scars left by our tumultuous relationship and her subsequent stalking. Therapy continued to be a crucial support as I worked through feelings of betrayal, fear, and sadness. Slowly but surely, I began to rebuild my sense of security and trust in others. I learned to set boundaries and prioritize my own well-being, knowing that I deserved peace and safety. With the support of my loved ones and professionals, I gradually regained a sense of normalcy in my life. Today, I am grateful for the lessons learned from this harrowing experience. It taught me the importance of self-care, resilience, and the true meaning of love and respect in a relationship. While the scars may never fully fade, I am stronger and more aware of my own strength and resilience. I look towards the future with hope and optimism, knowing that I have the courage to face whatever challenges come my way.